This month's interviewee has been on the show so many times that I'm pretty sure she's officially receiving the unofficial award for the most appearances on my channel besides myself. In fact, she's the one who helped me come up with the name for the show when I rebranded a few seasons ago. Please join me in welcoming back Winifred Summer, who is going to be talking about her newest book, which is romantic fiction as opposed to her usual expertise in human resources. Winifred, welcome back to the show. It is such an honor to have you back. I am excited.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's always great being on your platform in front of your awesome audience. So thank you so much for trusting me with them.
Of course. I'm glad to have you back. So you've been writing a new book, or you have it coming out soon, and I'd love to hear all about it.
All right. So I'm excited about this because it is actually my first time kind of jumping into fiction. So if you've never seen me before, Winifred Summer, I'm also known as the HR darling HR professional that people can talk to about what's going on in the workforce. I'm an HR professional and I write about all things work. I have a blog, but I also write about like job interviews and toxic work environment. But I wanted to do something a little different, and I decided to switch things up and write a fiction story that actually doesn't really have much of anything to do with my typical topics. So my story, it still feels weird shifting from like nonfiction to fiction and like taking off that human resources hat, but I call it a digital age romance. Two people, they meet online, right? They have like their little internet crush situation. They've never met, but they communicate like on the app that they met on. And then one night, one of the main characters, her name is Harmony, and the guy that she's talking to, his name is Duarte. He is on a trip, some kind of like influencer experience type of situation, and his plane is having some type of difficulties and they have to make an emergency landing. So the plane just so happens to be landing not too far from where Harmony lives. So, that little light bulb goes off like, hey, do you want to meet up real quick? I don't know how long I'm going to be in town or when the next flight is going to come to take me home, he was on his way home. So long story short, they decide to meet up and a lot of interesting things happen.
That's pretty cool. So how did you get inspired to write this? Like, was there any of your own personal life that kind of reflected what was going on in the characters, or just you had this idea bubbling in your head and you're like, this would make for a great plot?
Question. I think it's a mixture of things. I've been really fortunate to meet a lot of really awesome people online. I've had my share of horror stories where it's like, oh my gosh. Or when you meet a person and they're nothing like you imagine, or how it feels online. But I kind of feel like there's always this curiosity of, is this person going to be as cool or as wonderful or as friendly in real life? Are they going to look as great as they look online? There's all these questions that kind of pop up. And so I've always kind of played with that idea in my head, like, what would that experience be like, especially if you're not trying to meet up with someone?
That's really cool. So what made you want to jump onto doing fiction? Because, for someone who writes nonfiction and writes kind of a self-help style book, this seems kind of a interesting departure for you.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Originally, though, when I was, I guess, growing up and thinking about being a writer, it was always fiction. It didn't become a nonfiction desire until whenever that was that I put my Toxic Job book out, which I think was like 2021. But it was always fiction. I've always loved fiction. I used to be really heavy into like the R.L. Stine and the Goosebumps, and I just always loved the adventure and the escape of reading fiction books. And so I thought that was all I was going to be. But when I got into my whole HR career, and I guess people found my story interesting of the toxic work environment, and people just wanted to hear more about this stuff. And I just have so much to share when it comes to like these workforce topics. So nonfiction just kind of happened. But originally, I always thought I would be fiction. But I guess for the timing of it all being now, I've really been putting a lot of time into my blog. So while I'm still going to be writing nonfiction books about the workforce, like the blog is kind of like more short, weekly posts. And it kind of gives me more space in my brain to be kind of creative and fun and free versus working on like a big nonfiction project that's like workforce centered.
So what's been one of the biggest challenges that you've encountered in writing fiction and making that jump from nonfiction?
Oh my gosh, the details. Like the details. Because when I'm writing about HR and just stuff that I know based off my own personal experiences or my education or it's just like I know what I know and I can just spit it out and that's it, that's all. And with fiction, oh my gosh, the world building and just all the little details of the characters, those details. And I've been reading some different books to kind of help me. For example, I made up a city or a town, should I say, in Pennsylvania that it just came out of my head. And I'm just like, okay, how do I describe this? Because although I made up the town, it is in Pennsylvania. So I feel like there should still be some things that are kind of connected to the state. And yeah.
So what advice would you have for other authors out there who are toying with the idea of shifting genre or even working with a pen name?
Say do it. If you want to try something different, don't psych yourself out. Don't wait too long. Like, I just feel like you need to just jump into it and give it a shot. If you want to start small, you know what I mean? Like, you may not want to jump into writing like a huge mega novel. Like, maybe you want to start with like a novella or something else, or maybe you want to do poetry. But I think you owe it to yourself to do whatever it is that you feel passionately about. Allow yourself to express yourself in all ways with all talents. So my advice is just to give it a shot. And I would say try it time and time again. Like, the first piece that you write, you may not be too happy with, but every time that you sit down to write, I feel like you get better and better. With my book being a series, I felt cool with the first part, but it made me even more excited to make the second part even better.
So Winifred, we're coming up on the end of the interview. How can people connect with you and how can they get copies of your new book, Emergency Landing?
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so great being back here. So for all things Winifred Summer, you can check out my website, winifredsummer.com. I have my blog there, as well as links to all the different books that I have out. But as far as Six Summer, you got to go to my Instagram page, to be honest. So you can follow me on Instagram, Writing by Winifred. And there are posts on my page with the link, but also in my bio, it will say Emergency Landing, and it's a downloadable ebook. It is free, although I do accept people want to pay for it, but it is totally free. All you have to do is enter your email, and you can download it. You can check it out. You can leave me a review. I have some reviews up there, and it's on the Gumroad platform, which for me has been really easy. You don't have to download the app. You don't have to like create a login. Like, it's very quick and simple. So check me out on IG and click that link. And I'm DM friendly, so if you ever have any questions about anything else, holla at me in the DM.
Well, thank you for being back on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. See you next time.